It was 1878, and in the small Texas town of Redemption, the summer heat was at its peak. A lone rider entered the dusty streets. His name was Jesse Colton, and even the toughest outlaws changed their path when they heard that name. Jesse was nearly 30 years old, tall, his face weathered by the sun, and his eyes carried a coldness only found in men who had faced death since childhood. 2 revolvers hung at his waist, and his reputation was simple: whoever's bounty he accepted either came back in chains, or didn't come back at all. He walked straight into the Lucky Star saloon. Inside, smoke hung thick in the air, cards shuffled, and the smell of whiskey filled every corner. Sheriff Wade Harrison sat at a corner table, waiting for him. "Colton," the sheriff smiled, "if I'm calling you in, it means there's a big job." Jesse pulled out a chair and sat. "Talk." The sheriff placed a poster on the table, a rough sketch of a young man, maybe 19 or 20 years old. Below it read, "Wanted, the kid, $5,000 reward, dead or alive. Charged with bank robbery, murder of 2 deputies. This kid's been robbing banks across 3 counties for the past 2 months, the sheriff said. Killed 2 deputies. Fast with a gun, and slippery as hell. Nobody's been able to catch him." Jesse stared at the poster. Something about that sketch felt strangely familiar, like an old memory peeking through a foggy mirror. He shook the feeling off, telling himself it was just exhaustion. "The reward's good," Jesse said. "I'll take the contract." "One thing," the sheriff added, a slight hesitation in his voice. "The kid doesn't ride alone. He's got a gang, but folks say the kid himself has never hurt an innocent." He stopped himself. "Anyway, forget it. Just bring him in, dead or alive, doesn't matter." Jesse only nodded and walked out. That night, in his small cabin, Jesse opened his old leather bag where he kept his mother's belongings, a torn photograph, a small Bible, and a locket that had never opened because the key was lost long ago. His mind drifted back to when he was only 10 years old. That night in 1858, when Comanche raiders attacked their small farmhouse. His mother had pushed him toward the woods, screaming, "Run, Jesse. Take your brother and run." But in the darkness and chaos, Jesse's hand slipped from his little brother Sam's grip. They got separated. Jesse survived alone, wandering the forest for 3 days, hungry and thirsty, until a trader found him. His parents were never found. And Sam, just 7 years old, was never found either. People said he must have died in the raid, or maybe another trader had taken him in. 20 years had passed. Jesse had turned his pain into the edge of a gun, made bounty hunting his life, as if every criminal he caught was payback against his own fate. He held the locket in his hand, took a long breath, and put it back in the bag. Starting tomorrow, he told himself, I find the kid. Outside, dust swirled in the wind, and somewhere in the distance a coyote howled, as if the old days were calling him back. Early the next morning, Jesse mounted his horse Duster, poster tucked in his pocket, and rode toward the canyon where the kid had last been spotted. There was a strange unease in his chest, as if something was trying to stop him from this journey. But Jesse Colton never backed down from anything. He had no idea that in the coming days, the biggest secret of his life was about to unravel, a secret buried for 20 years, one that would leave him standing face to face with his own blood. For 2 days Jesse tracked the kid's trail, ashes from burned-out camps, hoofprints in the dirt, and a small trading post where the kid had stopped to buy salt. On the 3rd day, around noon, Jesse spotted smoke rising near Dead Man's Canyon. He quietly dismounted and looked out from behind the rocks. Below, in a small camp, a lone young man sat by a fire, cooking his meal. This was him, the kid. Jesse drew his revolver, took aim, and shouted, "Hands up. Your game's over." The kid jumped up, startled, but his eyes only flickered with fear for a moment before hardening. His hand moved toward his gun. Bang! The bullet struck the rock. Gunfire erupted from both sides. The kid leapt onto his horse and bolted, Jesse chasing right behind him. Hooves pounded, dust rose in clouds, and the echo of gunfire filled the canyon. The kid's horse was fast, but Jesse's duster was faster. 20 years of experience wasn't for nothing. At a tight turn, Jesse pulled out his rope and, with an expert throw, tangled it around the legs of the kid's horse. The horse stumbled, and the kid hit the ground. Jesse dismounted quickly, gun raised. "Get up. Hands where I can see them." The kid stood up, breathing hard, anger in his eyes, not fear. "You're all the same," he said. "Killed for money, all of you." "You killed 2 deputies, Jesse said sharply. "I never killed anyone," the kid shouted. "That's a lie. Sheriff Harrison framed me because I saw his corruption. His men are robbing the banks themselves and pinning the blame on me." Jesse said nothing, but something in the kid's voice stirred strangely inside him. That night, Jesse tied the kid up with rope and sat him down at camp. The fire crackled, stars scattered across the sky. "What's your real name?" Jesse asked, breaking the silence. The kid didn't answer at first, then said quietly, "People call me Kid because I don't remember my real name. When I was young, something happened. A raid. Comanche. My whole family scattered." Jesse's hand, holding his cup, suddenly went still. "How old were you?" he asked softly. 7, maybe 8, the kid said, staring into the fire. "All I remember is having an older brother. His hand slipped from mine in the dark. I searched for him for so long, but..." His voice grew heavy. "A traitor picked me up, took me with him. He gave me a name, Billy, but I never remembered my real one." Jesse's breath caught. 20-year-old voices echoed in his mind, his mother's screaming voice, his little brother's hand slipping away in the darkness. But he steadied himself. "This is just a coincidence," he told himself. "There are countless stories like this on the frontier. Thousands of children were lost in 20 years. He stayed silent, but sleep stayed far from his eyes that night. The next morning, as the two set off again, a rattlesnake suddenly hissed near Jesse's horse's feet. The horse spooked, and Jesse was about to fall when the kid, despite his bound hands, threw all his weight forward and pushed Jesse clear, falling himself, his elbow slamming into a rock and tearing open. Jesse stared, stunned. "Why'd you save me?" "I'm taking you in to hang." The kid managed a pained smile. "Because I'm not who you think I am. And maybe, someone once taught me to do the right thing, no matter what." Jesse cleaned the wound on his elbow in silence. Something was shifting inside him, a crack forming in the belief he'd carried about his work for 20 years. That evening, as they stopped near a small stream, Jesse spotted 2 riders approaching from a distance, Sheriff Harrison's men. But the way they moved, the look in their eyes, Jesse's trained gaze recognized it instantly. These weren't lawmen. These were hired guns. "Kid," Jesse said quietly, his hand moving toward his gun, "seems like there's truth in your story after all." For the first time, a flicker of hope appeared in the kid's eyes. But neither of them knew yet that the truth about to unfold was far bigger than Harrison's corruption, a secret buried in their own blood. The 2 riders drew closer, rifles gleaming in their hands. Jesse quickly untied the kid's ropes. "If I'm wrong, you can tie me back up later," he said, gripping his gun. "Right now, we need to survive." The kid looked at Jesse in disbelief, then nodded and grabbed a fallen rifle from the ground. The riders reined in close. One of them, a heavy-set man with a thick mustache, shouted, "Sheriff Harrison sent us. Bring the kid in dead or alive, and take out this bounty hunter too if he gets in the way." Jesse's suspicion turned to certainty. It was confirmed, Harrison really did want the kid silenced. "Why?" Jesse shouted. "What are you covering up for Harrison?" The answer came as a gunshot. Jesse and the kid dropped to the ground, taking cover behind the rocks. Bullets rained down, smoke and dust filling the air. The kid dropped one of the hired guns off his horse with a clean shot. His aim was remarkable, just like Jesse's. Jesse noticed, and for a moment his heart skipped strangely. The second man charged at Jesse, but Jesse fired twice. The man hit the ground, silenced for good. The first man, wounded, turned his horse and fled. The kid aimed to finish him off, but Jesse grabbed his arm. "Let him go. We need Harrison, not this small fish." After the fight, exhausted, they sat on the ground. The kid's elbow was bleeding again. As Jesse tended to it, his eyes fell on something hanging from the kid's neck, an old, rusted locket. Jesse's body turned to stone. Where did you get this?" His voice trembled. The kid held up the locket. "I had this when the trader found me. Never opened it, lost the key. But I believe it's a token from my real mother." Jesse pulled out his bag with shaking hands, took out his own mother's locket, the same design, the same old silver, the same flower engraved on it. The two lockets were identical, as if they belonged to a matching pair. Tears filled Jesse's eyes, something that hadn't happened in 20 years. "Sam," his voice barely came out. "My name is Jesse Colton. I'm your older brother." The kid, now Sam, froze in silence, his eyes filling first with shock, then belief. "That night, in the forest, your hand." "My hand slipped from yours," Jesse said, pulling his brother into an embrace, 20 years of pain pouring out in a single moment. "I searched for you for 20 years, and today I came here to kill you." Sam wept too, holding his older brother tight. "You saved me. Twice now. Then, and now." A few weeks later, Sheriff Harrison's corruption came fully to light across the territory. The wounded hired gun, once caught, confessed everything. Harrison was arrested, but on the way to jail, in the dead of night, he escaped, nobody saw how. Jesse and Sam chose to ride on together. Jesse left bounty hunting behind for good. "I can't spend the rest of my life killing men for money," he told his brother, as they rode away from redemption, the sun setting behind them. "What will you do now?" Sam asked. "Don't know," Jesse smiled, genuine happiness on his face for the first time in a long while. "But whatever it is, I'll do it with you." The two brothers rode off toward the horizon, two lockets swinging from their necks, 20 years of scattered blood, finally reunited. But far away, in a small Mexican town, a wounded shadow sat hidden in the dark, Sheriff Wade Harrison, fire burning in his eyes for revenge.